Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Citizen video. If you think at the end of the video I did a good job, please hit that like and subscribe button. As always, as a quick reminder, you can use the timestamps on the video timeline to jump to different parts of the video. 3.14.0 just entered Wave 1 PTU, so concierges and subscribers have access to it, and with it comes a buttload of bug fixes, but above all, more bugs. Let's dive into the 3.14.0 PTU patch notes. Current cloud tech is still in active development and not yet final. There's ongoing work with sign distance field occlusion, which should help alleviate the graphical artifacting, visual dots in the clouds. Additionally, we are working towards having local VFX for the clouds, similar to the gas clouds around rest stops, which will make a big difference in overall quality. The testing focus of this PTU patch will be Crusader, Orison landing zone, the constellation Taurus, Law System V2 surrender, Power Management V2 capacitor gameplay, Missile Operator Mode, Radar, Scanning and Ping Tier 0. Of course, there's also a list of known bugs, including gas clouds on Crusader appear to have moving graphical artifacts that appear as dots. Current clouds are still in development and not final. Orison objects and textures loading very slowly. Single location will only appear if player spools their drive before setting destination on the star map. Workaround, spool quantum drive before opening the star map and then open it up and set route. Various UI markers are faded and hard to see. Unable to scan FPS or rock-sized mining deposits until very close. Port Olisar is missing QT marker. Large black cubes and bright light particles can be seen within the snowstorm clouds on Microtech and in the dust storm on Hurston. The AI at UGF and Korea will have desync issues. After being approved for docking requests, there is no docking UI present, making docking virtually impossible to complete. Unable to shoot with hammerhead turrets, ammo displayed as 0 out of 0, which means the hammerhead is basically completely useless at this point. Missiles can hit players' ships when they are fired whilst the ship is moving forward. Security ships do not recognize illegal goods on board a ship when being carried by a player. Ping scans are unable to detect FPS and large FPS deposits. Calls with players using certain seats or stations will display a grey screen. Players can clip through the exterior door of the 890 jump while it is docked. Missions do not recognize players entering zone and AI are unresponsive or not visible to player during missions. There are uneven physics proxies at the hospital entrance which prevent players from taking trolleys, walking frames and gurneys in and out of the hospital. Multiple ships can be observed having looping animations with their missile racks, impacting their ability to fire their payload. After the first fire, subsequent attempts to fire a missile can no longer work. The pilot weapon's HUD will no longer be visible after entering or exiting a turret. Cave FPS missions. Mission is withdrawn when nearing planet or cave. AI ship nameplates are missing and shown as placeholder. Intense fog can be seen in docking port interior at all rest stops with docking. The player has no collision when they are manning the mining turret of the Rock DS, preventing damage from weapons fire. There is flashing that occurs intermittently when viewing the VMA in the Mobiglass at locations with environmental lighting. And now onto the new features. Locations: new planet, Crusader, new city, Orison landing zone. Comprised of a latticework of platforms suspended in mid-atmosphere of the gas giant Crusader, Orison is considered the most picturesque location in Stanton. New Babbage Hospital interior location. Adding in the interior of the new Babbage Hospital. The first pass will add in the location lobby and additional remodeling of the lobby near the Habs in New Babbage to accommodate the hospital and gameplay in a future release. Gameplay: Law System V2 surrender. The addition of surrender allows players to be arrested without losing their life, an important feature as the game moves closer to mechanics where the decision to surrender or risk death by fighting or fleeing will carry much more weight. Players will be able to surrender by coming to a halt and powering down their ships when ordered to by security. Security will halt their attacks and arrest criminal players, and impound their ships if owned by a criminal. Surrendering will give the player a reduced sentence when sent to prison. All players inside a criminal ship at the time of the surrender, regardless of criminal status, will be sent to prison when the ship is impounded. In the current implementation, players cannot surrender to other players. Missile Operator Mode. Missile Operator Mode is a new operator mode that will be used to separate the gun and missile torpedo gameplay within ships. Using this mode will give pilots more control over what missiles or torpedoes are fired and give them more character and purpose in combat. They should no longer be viewed as just another weapon, but have a more distinct and important role in the overall flow. Accessing the operator mode. Access to the operator mode is given by a keybind, default middle mouse button. On a toggle, toggling out of the mode will enter the default mode for the seat. Upon accessing the mode, players will lose control of any other ship weapons and gain control of the missile systems. All other weapons will return to neutral gimbal positions, stop tracking, etc. While the missile systems will deploy and the system will emit increased signals. Selecting ordnance. Players will only be able to lock and fire one kind of missile class at a time. For example, Ignite, Rattler, Arrestor, not just size or tracking type. In addition, each missile rack will only be able to stock one model of missiles. Pre-existing split loadouts will still work technically but are not intended to be supported, so there may be UI issues. On entering the mode, one type of missile will automatically be selected, ordered by class for consistency across ships and play sessions. Players can then cycle forward and back over these missile types, with the current missile selected, missile prominent on the HUD, and the previous and next class of missiles also visible so the player knows what they will cycle to next. Players can set how many missiles they wish to fire in a burst, G and left Alt G, by default up to a maximum value. They must then wait for each missile to arm before it can be fired. Locking a target. If a player is in missile operator mode and has locked combat target, the missile will automatically begin locking onto the target. The locking process is no longer binary. After a minimum level of lock to require the target, the longer you lock for, the better lock becomes, and the harder the missile will become to spoof. This is achieved by a simple multiplier of target signals. For example, a target may have a real signal of 1000, and at full lock the signal amplification may be 5 times, so the missile would perceive the signal as 5000 instead. This means that the missile requires other context for a significant larger signal than the original to be distracted by them. A target must be fully resolved, for example its signal must be the largest in the detection radius before a missile will track it, meaning that enemy targets can try to outplay another ship locking a missile to them by releasing countermeasures or flying close to larger targets before the missile is even launched. If the missile's target isn't fully resolved before launch, it will simply dump fire forward. Which means if you pack like a lot of size 1 missiles, you basically have a bunch of Hydra rockets that you can see on Apaches. Firing ordnance. At any point after the first missile has been armed, the player can initiate the launch procedure, which will fire any currently armed missile and begin a cooldown until they can next begin arming missiles. If the player begins firing missiles without a lock, the missiles will be dump fired. This can be used for ground targets, bombing runs, emergency situations, or to avoid enemy ships being notified about incoming missiles or combat locks. If more than one rack has the same type of missiles, the missiles will be expended from the racks in a staggered rotation. For example, if 3 racks each have 8 Ignite missiles on, and the player chooses to fire 8 Ignite missiles, the first 2 racks will fire 3 missiles and the third will fire 2 in A-B-C rotation. Missiles, guidance and control rework. Converted missiles to use IFCS guidance and control systems. This will improve missile performance and tracking ability, enabling greater control over general missile behaviors. New ships and vehicles. New ship, the RSI Constellation Taurus. Core tech, planetary volumetric clouds V1. Initial version of a bespoke system to convincingly render multi-layered volumetric clouds of varying scale within planetary atmospheres. This initial version is meant for the gas giant Crusader. Feature updates. Gameplay. Radar scanning and ping tier 0. We have overhauled the radar scanning and pinging system, tab by default. Now does a ping from your ship that with radar is used to passively locate and track contacts and display their whereabouts to the player. Scanning is used to obtain information about a specific entity. Ping actively finds additional contacts or highlights volumes of space to investigate weak signatures, both of which are displayed via the radar and its AR HUD elements. This includes a new UI element for infrared emitted by heat-generating entities, electromagnetic emitted by entities which draw or generate electrical power, and cross-section representing how visible an entity is, based on its size and how reflective its surface type is. The larger a contact is, and the more of its profile is present, the greater its CS signature is. Blobs are generated when an entity's signature strength is strong enough to reach the radar but not otherwise strong enough to be detected as a contact. These blobs are visually divided into cuboids the ships display and indicate a volume of space to investigate, where an entity or entities might be located. The size of a blob is determined based on the base signature strength of the entity, meaning the larger a blob is, the less accurate its representation of an entity's position. Power Management V2. rebalancing the existing power system and integrating capacitors into it. Players will have the ability to manage the amount of extra energy that goes into the thrusters, weapons, and shields, making critical decisions on the distribution of energy in order to defend, attack, or pursue and evade. This also includes added key bindings to control these changes, the assignment via keys F5, F6, F7, and F8 reset, or power triangle will set the regeneration speed for thruster capacitor, shield generation, and energy weapon ammo regeneration. With the new additions to capacitor gameplay comes a wide rework to ship flight and thruster handling, shield behavior, and weapon damage/ammo count. This full rework on ships is to bring them closer to their intended roles in the universe. Weapons. Weapon fire rates and damage have increased dramatically. Ammo rates have been significantly reduced. Energy weapons now have limited ammo which is automatically regenerated when the weapon is not being used. Changing assignments to weapons will make energy weapons regenerate ammo faster. Throttling and overclocking is disabled for the time being, which will be re-evaluated post 3.14. Manned turrets have their isolated weapon capacitor system, which will regenerate weapons faster and provide a deeper pool. Shields. Full balance rework on all shields below size 3 to turn them into bubble type shields with one shield face. Removed hardening, which will be redeveloped at a later point. Thrusters and flight. Added separate regenerable pool for boost, formerly afterburner. Changing assignment to thrusters will make thruster boost fill up faster. Added option to automatically enable/disable boost during space braking. UI. Added thruster fuel boost bar. Added weapon readouts on the HUD for each weapon showing ammo state. Slightly changed the meaning of the shield display to reflect power triangle assignment. Disallowed throttling on the shield display. Legacy power triangle functionality is removed. It was just a power priority setting that only worked if the power plant could not supply enough power. Power triangle will now work as a pure regen distribution function for shields, energy weapons, and thruster boost. Increased detection range of mineable rocks. Added new display options for party nameplates. Ships and vehicles. Canvas sliced ship HUDs. Updating all ship HUDs to use the new canvas slice system, providing an improved layout that maximizes screen real estate and provides more info and depth to pilots. Players will now see a universal bearing along the top edge. Pitch ladder has moved from the center of the player's vision to along the right side. We've added 3D velocity and acceleration meters on the bottom corner. IFCS thruster wind volume effects. Building on the thruster wind volumes feature to create visual effects for atmospheric flight. This means the ability for IFCS thruster and wind volumes to affect ground materials like dust and snow more accurately, and with new dynamic effects when flying low to planet surfaces. Claiming a ship no longer restocks missiles/torpedoes. We've made missiles and torpedoes no longer restock when a ship is claimed through insurance on the ASOP terminal. Players will now need to restock the ship manually through the landing services after reclaiming. With this change, we have reduced the base wait time for all insurance claims. Law and prison updates. Remove the trespass zones from underground facilities. Destroying a party member's empty vehicle no longer results in a crime. Updated the prison code entry interface to prevent it from resetting the code on failed attempts to stop a bug that would make it no longer accept codes. Crime for assaulting a security officer should no longer be forgiven outside of a monitored zone. Knockouts no longer kill. Increased inner thought text size for ship medical beds, set as preferred ICU. Adjusted pilot/co-pilot seat animations and height in the hammerhead. Core tech. Updated main menu background video, graphics setting additions. We've added a few new graphic settings that will help give more control over your experience in the PTU. Added volumetric clouds graphic option. We've added low, medium, original default, high spawning distance for scattered object. This setting allows you to pick the distance from the camera at which scattered objects spawn. We've also added terrain tessellation distance for low, medium, and high. Major bug fixes. Player friends list in-game should no longer be kept at a maximum of 50 players. The loading screen should no longer be enlarged and zoomed in on aspect ratios higher than 16:9, i.e. 21:9 and 32:9. Player emotes should now correctly play through /commands and the inner thought wheel. Thank God we can finally emote in game. Fix an issue causing purchasable, carryable items to disappear very quickly after they are dropped or placed on the ground. So you can finally give food to your friends now. Miles Eckhart should now function correctly and update the mission, so thank God I can finally take down an Edris again. Ramming another player while in the borders of your own pad should no longer impound your ship. Ships should no longer fail to restock and missile/torpedoes when using restocking services. Players' oxygen levels should no longer start depleting after using QT in a ship. Fix an issue causing players to damage their ships if the player exits their seat and re-enters their seat during quantum travel and then later exits the ship. Fix an issue causing players to not persist and spawn back inside their ship, making them have to claim it if their client crashes within an armistice zone. Fix the multi-tool dispensed from the commissary units so that it will show the orbit attachment in the PMA after they are stowed. Workaround fix for the SCU amount displayed on the 890's cargo capacity so it should no longer be incorrectly at 32. Fix an issue causing the ECN alert mission countdown timer to not display. Weapons placed in ship weapon lockers should now persist in all ships correctly when it has been stored and retrieved. Large ships attempting to auto-land in rest stop/orbital station hangars should no longer become stuck. Mission Giver's AI will no longer break if an NPC sits in their designated seat before they do. There should no longer be a very obstructive reflections on the 85x canopy. When you throw a grenade, it should no longer have a chance to reappear in your hand or throw with a desync and the explosion has no VFX. Vehicles with weapon gimbals should now correctly default to fixed mode when the setting is turned on. Fix an issue where players could not fire an FPS weapon directly after switching/reloading the weapon until the second left mouse button press. Players should no longer remain in ADS when reloading an FPS weapon and have let go of the ADS key. NPCs should no longer be able to push a player away from kiosks/ASOP terminals while using them. The hot tub in the constellation Phoenix should no longer be missing some geometry. The 2951 auspicious red paint should no longer be displayed as a placeholder in the VMA and should now correctly change the appearance of the ship when applied to it. Friendly AI ships during missions should now quantum away correctly after all hostile AI ships in the area have been destroyed and the user completed the mission. Fix an issue causing many inner thought prompts to be missing or broken from ship beds and non-pilot seats, which may prevent standing up or logging out functions. Tavarin war dress white uniform jacket texture should no longer be zoomed in. Bartenders should no longer be missing from rest stop bars. Fix an issue causing players to unable to claim their ships from ASOP terminals claim button. When performing an unlawful delivery mission, pilot's drug box should now get despawned correctly after security AI ship finishes scanning their vehicle. Armor shop mannequins should no longer be T-posing in Garrett Defense and other armor stores. Underground facility turrets should no longer be missing. Cruise speed control should no longer ignore the limiter when player is not in the pilot seat. Player's head should now correctly remain looking at ceiling upon respawning in a bed. Wiping the visor should now correctly clear icing VFX impairing player vision. Fix the noticeable performance drop up to 10 FPS when navigating around the lower rear section of the Prowler when on a moon. The power triangle should now function and be interacted with within the MFD inside ships. SparkJet Pro power plants should now show the correct size grade of the component. Turning ship into no-fly zones at Area 18 should no longer result in autopilot pulling player to the ground. Ships should no longer be able to continue to throttle when their hydrogen fuel has been depleted completely. Fix an issue that sometimes caused ship parts to duplicate when blown off of the ship. And for technical fixes, fixed 8 client crashes, fixed 4 server crashes, and fixed a server deadlock. Sadly, I don't have access to Wave 1 PTU. I'm sadly a Wave 3 pleb, so video footage will have to wait for me. But anyway, are you looking forward to 3.14 or do you have any tips on what I could do better in the future? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and all that good stuff, and if you want to support me additionally, I have a Patreon link below. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.